Welcome to the service this morning. I am Juanda Moore, one of the 19 plus staff ministers here at New Thought Community. My topic today, oh purpose, what should I do? Now you caught a little bit of that Macbeth in that, didn't you? Well, it's not that bad. About purpose. Are you living on purpose? Have you considered whether or not you're living the best version of yourself? And I could ask myself the same question. Am I living my purpose? And at this point in time, my answer would be, I guess, I don't know. What is your answer? I know you've thought about this one time or another. When I was growing up in Southeast Texas, see, I had many purposes. I was the dishwasher, I was the laundromat, I was the handy picker-upper, but I took pride in being responsible for those chores. And when my dad would surprise me by taking over one of the chores, I would be upset, not grateful, but upset that my reason for being wasn't necessary any longer. See, I would dally and linger and procrastinate, and sometimes he'd try to help me, but it was my job to do them. I was going to do them the way I wanted to do them. And then when somebody took over my purpose, my reason for being, I wasn't needed. I'd constantly wonder, why am I here then? And being an only child meant I didn't have younger siblings to boss around, and I didn't have older ones to hide from. I was the oldest and the youngest. So again, the question would come up, if I don't have a purpose, what am I here for? Even without the loss of my multi-purpose reason for being, the nagging didn't go away. So again, I ask you, what is your reason for being? Do you ever consider whether or not you have a purpose and or a mission? All successful businesses do. And I'm sure you weren't expecting this quiz today, but I know some of you or most of you have considered this at least one time in your life or another. And maybe some of you or a lot of you have not been able to come up with a solid, stable answer to this question. Last week, I asked a couple of people this question about purpose. I was at the doctor's office and I said, can I ask you a question before you leave? He said, sure. I said, what do you think your purpose is? He said, right now I'm here to help my son grow up to be a responsible man. And I paraphrased it for him. I said, so you're here to be a beneficial presence on the planet, right? He thought about it for a second. He said, yes, and I'll see you next time. Okay, but I had the answer. I asked a female media person the same thing. She said, I'm here to spread truth and information. In my mind, I thought, she's here to be a beneficial presence on the planet. And I'm sure your response to this question, even though it changes from time to time, is doing along the same lines. We're here as God's expression of life, not as ego's impression of self. As I see it, life is a classroom and we're all here to grow back to God. That's why we came here in the first place, to be the experience of the infinite, to mirror our source. I believe we are here to stitch together a life of expression, a tapestry of experiences, and we're here to be a ball of glowing light that represents all that we are, all that God is, and to do this as one individual, one morphing and changing and evolving orb of pulsing light. What has been downloaded into this changing, pulsing orb of light is an energy and cell memory that reflects joy and peace and well-being and wisdom and creativity and intuition and intelligence and passion and the divine feminine masculine energy of being. In essence, we're here for God. Let me tell you this Cherokee legend about an elder who was talking with his grandson, and he was saying, there's a big fight going on inside me all the time. He said, I got some wolves around me, and one wolf is full of anger, envy, sorrow, ignorance, greed, arrogance, guilt, resentment, ego, pride. And he said, the other wolf is joy and peace and love and hope and kindness and truth and compassion and faith and wisdom and well-being and wonder and harmony and strength. But the war goes on. His grandson said, "But Papa, which one is going to win?" And the elder said, "My son, the one that wins is the one that you feed." See, this life that we asked to come to create and express is really on an evolutionary journey back to our beginnings, back to source, back to infinite, unbounded consciousness and eternal awareness. All of what we experience is the foundation for our being. Whether it is a loss or a slight or a surprise or a miracle, every bit of it is part of the river of evolution, whose purpose is to color and season our path so that it reflects our reflection of what eternality is as us. Nothing that happens is an accident. Nothing occurs or shows up without leaving an impression or a lesson or a blessing. All of what is for us and not against us. Even if it's not pleasant or if it's downright awful, all of it is for the life journey we're on right now. And people talk about past lives and the fact that sometimes we're paying for past misdeeds. The only thing that is with us and never ever leaves us is the spark of divinity that God downloaded into us. The spark was embedded in us so as to be used as a lifeline. This spark is in the coils of our DNA so that we're never totally without divine help and assistance as we tread this life of wonder here on earth. See, when we're in the middle of the swamp and the alligator is nipping at our toes, we are moved by fear, but only momentarily. When we remember to stare the fear straight in the eye, we remember to breathe deeply and go within, things kind of fall back into balance and the alligator backs down and we feel connected again. So see, when you feel bad about something, or when you're frustrated about something, or when you're fearful, or when you're sad or irritated or upset or bothered, it's an internal signal that you're disconnected or that you're about to be disconnected from God. Everyday worries about returning to normal or email inbox overload or dinging phones or appointment reminders can stress us and burn us out. Just know that all the chaos is disrupting our divine signal and is calling us away from the expansion that we're here to experience. We're here to grow and evolve beyond the boundaries and markers of society. Yes, even the stressors have a purpose. Everything has a season or a reason and a purpose. Even when we think things can't get worse, our innate DNA calls us to sit down, throw in the towel, and center ourselves. In this gesture of giving up, what we really are doing is giving into life. We're letting the jitters loose themselves in order to allow our higher self to move into the soul GPS zone. The internal guidance zone is what the soul GPS zone is. And it shows up when we breathe deeply or become quiet or we stop to meditate or we become mindful or we utter a treatment or we go straight to old school prayer. Letting go of the ego allows us to be connected to the ever-present guidance within. Connecting to the still, small voice that is called intuition or hunch or whatever, but the knowing that is the download from God is here to help us connect to or return us to our divine connection. The stillness is what exists between the streaming world and the screaming ego. About 400 years ago, Blaise Pascal, a French mathematician, said that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. See, when we learn to sit quietly, we can regain the inner connections that allow life to proceed from the inside out, the way it's intended to work. When and as we learn to de-stress and center, we learn to live our lives on purpose. We begin to be the intended version of ourselves. We live the life we were born to live, and as we still the noise of the world, we can hear our soul's guidance. As we calm our minds, we allow the flame of our soul to ignite our heart and gently ease us back into the bubble of God. Our purpose and our mission become clear. Daily life is a journey. It's a journey from birth to death, from struggle to grace, and along the way, the stillness is what guides us, sometimes gently, sometimes not so gently, but always constant and eternal, always calling us to remain connected with God. In stillness, we stay connected to something larger than ourselves. In stillness, we move beyond the ego to harmony. And in the stillness, we anchor ourselves to the love of God. As we nourish and listen, we learn to move closer to our purpose. As we unplug from the ego and practice the art of stillness, as we use the gift of listening, we renew soul, spirit, and mind so as to be the best version of self. Now, if you're in a safe place, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and recognize there is an infinite singularity that is existent everywhere, all the time, without failures or outages or overload. Recognizing that the singularity is spirit in us, as us, whispering to be more of itself through us, we gratefully open to this gift of life's purpose for us. And with this gentle awareness and in the stillness, we let go and let God, knowing it's done, and so it is. Aho.